Hello, gorgeous tribesters. Okay, today's session is all around body, one of our three pillars, mind, body, planet. And I'm going to take you through a deck called Nourish Your Body. And this is all about how you can create lasting change to your physical well-being. So what we're going to do is I'll take you through a few key sections. So one will just be around physical health, physical well-being. What is it? What are the facts? And then I'll share with you some critical concepts about your physical well-being. And there's some actions that you can implement for more mindful work, whether this is from home or in an office. And obviously, if you have questions, you can let me know. You can message me, you can send them through in whatever fashion you want. So the facts, let's start with this. And I just want you to start thinking about what physical well-being means to you. And if you were going to take 30 seconds, could you write down what physical well-being means to you? Okay, now you've got that thought in your head. I'm going to tell you what it really is, and hopefully we're aligned. And if not, then you're learning from this already. So if you remember, and this is something I talk about a lot, physical well-being is not just about exercise. I was definitely one for a very long period of time that thought just because I was an athlete, that meant I had very good well-being. But that couldn't be further from the truth, because physical well-being, physical health is not solely about how much you exercise. Of course, movement is important, but again, I say movement, not exercise specifically, because there are various types of movement. One of which is exercise. Other is just movement for movement's sake, getting our bodies to move from point A to point B. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail later, but physical health and well-being incorporates exercise, which is a part of movement, which is just one part of your overall physical health. The other parts that are really important are sleep, diet, hydration. So we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail, but I think the main takeaway, the main thing I want you to ingrain in your head is that you need to be looking after your physical well-being in more ways than just finding time to go to the gym or finding time to go exercise. We need to think about it with the foundations of sleep, diet, and movement. So sleep, let's start with sleep. Sleep is super foundational. It is the bedrock of your well-being. It is when all the things happen to restore yourself. So I was one. I'd love to know, you guys can let me know along the way, how many hours do you normally sleep? And are you like me, who thought that having 5 hours of sleep a night was plenty? And if you are, then this is going to be really useful. And if that is definitely you, then you should definitely check out our episode with Dr. Lindsay Browning, where she goes into all the details of sleep. But look, there are so many benefits of sleep. And sleep, as Dr. Lindsay Browning defines, she says it's determined by two things: sleep drive and your circadian rhythm. So sleep drive is, think of hunger, your hunger drive. When you're hungry, you want to eat. We have the same with sleep. So when you're tired, you have a drive to sleep. Your body is telling you you need to sleep. Now, sometimes we listen, sometimes we don't. Then we have the circadian rhythm, and this is your internal clock. And it's your internal clock that's telling your body when it needs to do things. Sleep is one of them, eat is another, but it's also telling your body lots of other, it's helping you regulate hormones. It's regulating the release of melatonin, which helps regulate sleep, as well as that exposure to the sun. And if we try to sleep when our circadian rhythm thinks that it's daytime, it can be difficult to sleep because our body has this clock saying, okay, it's morning, we're meant to wake up. It's night, we're meant to go to sleep. When we start to play around with that, our body gets really confused. So for example, think about a time that you traveled, you went to a foreign country, you were in a different time zone. How did jet lag feel? What was your body doing? And how did that impact your overall mental state? Now, we're talking about the circadian rhythm relative to sleep, but it does also control a host of other things, including your hunger, your alertness. And I say alertness, especially in the morning because of cortisol. Now, the morning, what happens in the morning? The sun comes up. The sun comes up, and that's key to regulating your circadian rhythm. So you get cues from the sun and the sun rising and the sun setting to help you remain in balance. You also get cues from food and from physical activity. And now more and more, we're getting cues from our electronic devices. So our electronic devices emit what is called blue light, which actually tells your body to stop producing melatonin. Going back to that idea, melatonin is the hormone that helps you sleep, basically, regulates sleep, I should say. So when you are looking at a device that has blue light, it's saying stop. It's stopping the regulation of sleep because it stops producing melatonin, and that creates some imbalance. What's important is consistency here. Consistency in your sleep patterns. So Matthew Walker, definitely one of the world's sleep experts. He wrote a book called Why We Sleep. And he says that we all should be aiming to set ourselves up for 8 hours of sleep opportunity. I love this phrase, sleep opportunity. So you might not get 8 hours every night, but you want to give yourself the time to have 8 hours of sleep opportunity by the time you get in bed and by the time you get up. Now, the other person, obviously, I've talked about Dr. Lindsay Browning. We have an episode with her, and she has a book called Navigating Sleeplessness, and she's done a lot of research on insomnia and how you can use CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, for insomnia. So if you are someone that struggles with sleep, she is someone definitely to look into, and also looking at her book, Navigating Sleeplessness, will give you some ideas. Okay, let's move on to food. Michael Pollan. I'm not sure if you know him, but if you don't, definitely check him out. He's a professor of journalism at the University of California at Berkeley. And he also is a writer for the New York Times and a well-known author. He's wrote a host of books. One of my favorites is Food Rules. It's super simple. It's like very easy and accessible. And he is someone that examines various aspects of the agricultural industry, the food chain, man's place in the natural world. He's just come out with a new book. He had a podcast with Gwyneth Paltrow, which is worth listening to. But his basic premise, and I love the simplicity of this, is eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Simple, simple, simple. Keep it simple. Now, unfortunately, the Western diet is taking over, and the Western diet consists of processed foods, meat, added fat, added sugar, refined grains, basically all the nutrients being stripped away from us, from the food. So I think what's important to understand, though, is that there is no single ideal human diet. And the human has adapted over time based on where people live to a variety of different foods and a variety of different diets. And we can see this from the blue zones. You know, the blue zones is the area in the world where you have the greatest number of centenarians, and they have different types of diets, different, the main part of their diets are different. However, the one fact is that our bodies have adapted to accept all these different types of diets, except for the Western diet. The Western diet just has actually infiltrated our system, and it leads to drastic reduction in our health, so that people, when they go off of the Western diet, actually see a huge improvement in their health. Basically, 80% reduced chances of heart disease, 90% reduced chance of type 2 diabetes, 70% reduced chances of colon cancer. And it's just important for you to know all these facts, because when you go into a supermarket, when you go in to buy your food, we're inundated with different types of marketing from all of those big suppliers out there. And unfortunately, we get drawn in. Our children get drawn in. So we need to understand how to read labels. Now, the next thing we need to look at is the sitting disease. Dr. James Levine spent 30 years as the professor of medicine at the Mayo Clinic, and he's basically a world expert on obesity. We obviously think obesity has to do with just eating too much, but actually it has a lot to do with how much we're sitting. Sitting is more dangerous than smoking. Sitting is the new smoking these days. It kills more people than HIV and is more treacherous than parachuting. And he says we're sitting ourselves to death. A little bit scary if you're watching this as you're seated. And if you are, then just get up and move. Okay. So what happens with the sedentary lifestyle? So inactivity leads to slower metabolism. It means that your body's not able to regulate or to control its blood sugar levels. It's not able to regulate blood pressure or break down fat. And that's why it leads to obesity. And then there's also this increased risk of heart disease. And the people who smoke, the people who sit more than 4 hours daily increase their risk of premature death by 40%. Now that's a little scary, especially for those of you that work and sit behind your desk working. And if you do, don't worry, we have some recommendations for you. But the idea is that you should be getting at least 150 minutes of moderate physical activity weekly. And that is 20 minutes daily. But unfortunately, less than 5% get 30 minutes daily. So I know we're recommending 20, but really, if we look at 30 minutes daily, only 5% of the population out there is getting 30 minutes daily. And then this third scary fact is that because of this passive sedentary lifestyle, there is a huge amount of back pain, lower back issues that is affecting workers globally. Now, this is a number based on Europe, but 3 in 5 workers in Europe report having lower back pain, musculoskeletal disorders, and this is from sitting. So sitting truly is the new smoking. Okay, now that I've raised your awareness around some of the facts, let's look at some more important concepts that you need to know for your physical well-being. These are really critical to understand. And the first has to do with biophilia. This is a fun one to look at. And actually, we had a talk with Matt Morley, and he goes through this in detail. But essentially, biophilia, the concept states that humans possess an innate tendency to seek connections with nature and other forms of life. And it was originally introduced in 1984 by Edward Wilson in his book, Biophilia. And it's this urge to affiliate with other forms of life. And I think this idea is really points to how we are all connected, and we want to have a connection with one another, but we also want to have a connection with the outside world. So biophilia, the idea of bringing the outdoors in. Now, we spend 90% of our lives indoors, so it's important to reflect on the state of buildings right now, the buildings in which we live, that we work in, and also that we play in. And just like people, you can have buildings that can be healthy or sick. And in simplest terms, healthy buildings promote its occupants' physical and mental well-being, and even social well-being, because it creates a space where you can move around and connect. And then you have sick buildings that lower cognitive function. That means memory, learning, language, executive functions, complex attention, social cognition, your motor functions, your perceptual function, all of that has to do with your cognitive function. It also impacts your concentration and your energy. Now, just think about a space that you've been in where you go into it and it just automatically makes you feel low. Typically, it predominantly would be a sick building. Versus when you're in a space, when you're outdoors and you have that feeling of like, oh, you're in the fresh outdoors and you've got energy. Now, linking sick buildings to work, you can see that, or even if you're working from your house, if you live in a home that isn't necessarily built in the right way, you might find that you suffer more illnesses, and then that would lead to days off, sick days. And that could be back pain, headaches, whatever. But buildings can create problems for our health. And so enter biophilic design. So we have the concept of biophilia, of sort of our connection with nature. We've got this problem of having sick buildings, but we can create them healthy. And by creating them healthy, we can turn to biophilic design. So these pictures depict exactly what we're talking about. You're bringing the outdoors in. Now, it just doesn't have to just be greenery, but that is something that is very prominent here. But we're going to look at what some of these characteristics are. But first, let's look at the effects. So it increases productivity. Our levels of concentration rises when we are in spaces that are healthy and that have biophilic designs. Reduces stress. Similar to forest bathing. So if you've gone and walked amongst trees and other forms of green prescriptions, this is so good because it will boost your feelings of vitality simply by going into that space. And then, if you have a green space, biophilic design, it can extend lingering time. So if you're in a hotel or in a lobby, in a retail store, it could promote you staying there, boosting spend in retail environments. And then they're starting to introduce this in hospitals, and it helps speed up patient recovery time. So what's not to like about that? And why wouldn't we not all be introducing biophilic design into our homes? So some of the things to consider, we've got indoor air quality, hugely important in the past 2 years. The materials that you could use, lighting, think back to circadian rhythm, acoustics, that means echoes, dead zones, but also background music, and then smell. Again, natural scents, natural smells would be key. Going a little bit more in detail here, and this is for those of you that are very interested in indoor air quality, IAQ, as it's referenced. Natural ventilation. I mean, that's what I use. Natural ventilation at home. I've got windows open, maybe too many, according to my husband, but natural ventilation. You need natural ventilation. That means having 2 windows open across the space so you can flush out the air. This also helps prevent drowsiness. I mean, think about a time that you drove in the car and you sort of get stifled and you open the window and you realize, oh, okay, now the window's down and I have fresh energy. Great. Houseplants, bringing the outdoors in. Houseplants isn't just about being pretty in there, but we have certain houseplants that actually can clean the air. They remove the carbon dioxide by day and then give off oxygen at night. You can invest in air conditioning filters or standalone air purifiers. So air conditioning filters, the ones you want to look for, carbon filters for the VOCs, media filters for PM2.5 removal, and this is like getting quite detailed, or induct UV germicidal irradiation. I mean, really, you can do a lot of investigation, but right now, I would recommend carbon filters for VOCs. And then Otherwise, standalone air purifiers, and they do make a little bit of noise, so you want to just make sure they're in quiet mode. The easiest thing to do, though, is open windows. If you live in a space where you can open windows, do that. Okay, so then the next thing we're going to look at is healthy and natural materials. VOCs are the chemicals, and I should have said this before, but VOCs are the chemicals that are found in materials to build and maintain our homes. And they're short for volatile organic compounds. And their common sources of them are in insulations, in materials, paints, coatings, adhesives, fabrics, wood products, and flooring materials, and they basically off-gas. Generally, we want to avoid furniture and fittings that feature plastics, synthetics, epoxy, and resins when we are in an interior environment, especially in offices, in our bedrooms and children's playrooms. So instead, what can you use? And there's plenty we can use. It just means we need to make a little bit more effort to investigate what sources are better for us in our homes and which will stand up to the conditions within the environment that you're living in. So use natural linens, use cotton, use jute, use wood, wool, leather, bamboo, cork, any bio-based materials. Really just think, what is natural and how can I be using that? Don't get fooled by suppliers that say these certain things are natural. You really do need to check also that it is truly a sustainable source, because you can get bamboo that is grown in an unsustainable way. So just all of this requires a bit of research, but again, that's why we're here. We're here to hold hands and to support one another as we go through this whole process. Okay. Now, next thing, your lighting. You want to expose yourself to natural sunlight, natural daylight within the first 30 minutes of waking. That will kick-start your circadian rhythm. Jumpstart. It's great. So right when you wake up, open your curtains and try to get some sunlight, daylight on your face. Then if possible, when you're setting up your desk, try to have it near a window to ensure that you have as much exposure to natural light throughout the day. Now, for many of us, this isn't possible because of where we're working and how our home office or our workspace is set up. And if not, don't stress. None of this is meant to be stressful. These are ideas, these are recommendations. You might not be able to do everything, but surely there's one or two things that you can start to integrate. And you do that, and then you over time improve. The other thing that might be smart over time, again, is investing in a smart light system. And these are bulbs or the opportunity to use dimmers. So changing the light based on the time of day. So you want brighter lights in the morning. They have that blue light. It's fine because that sort of stimulates your circadian rhythm. And then you start to get a little bit warmer, more amber towards the late afternoon into the evening. And then at night, from 8 p.m. onwards, you're just using task lights or uplighters. A really good transition as you go towards your sleeping hours, and then really pitch black in your bedroom. This is not something I used to believe in, but I have to say it does work wonders for a much more deep sleep. And of course, you could always have eye shades like I have. And then natural acoustics. Sounds can be distracting. They can be distracting in your office. They can be distracting when you're trying to work, when you're trying to focus. So we really want to think about how we're creating a sense of tranquility, how we can move away from unwanted noise. So think about sound insulating materials. So this could be underlays, acoustic panels and ceilings, even on the sidewalls. Like sometimes you have wall paints or wall coverings. All of these help absorb sound. And then depending on the size of your space, if you have larger spaces, carpets, rugs. If you have smaller spaces, like just throwing down some extra rugs, extra cushioning, or for soft furnishing to absorb the unwanted sound. But you can also add sound. So instead of just always taking things away, turning things off, maybe introducing some really tranquil music. You could play nature-inspired music. That's bringing the outdoors in. That provides a sense of tranquility. The other really amazing idea that I love is using natural beats, acoustic world music, traditional music, beats, sort of the drums, natural drum sounds. And that will promote a sense of drive, a sense of focus on whatever work you're doing. So consider the type of work that you need to get done, and then play with the sounds that you have in your background space. And this brings me on to sense. So sense, smell. Just think, does this scent come from a natural source? When you're smelling something, you think, oh, that smells amazing. Could you actually get that smell in that product? And I'm thinking, like, this smells like, your body wash smells like the ocean's smell of the ocean breeze. Like, how do you really package that up without a chemical? So essential oils, if you're a perfume wearer and like to have scents, essential oils, they're great. High quality ones are always worthwhile. And there's different smells that promote different reactions. So certain ones are good for your immune system, other ones are good for concentration, and then lavender, one we all probably know, is very good for sleep. Now, there is something in trees called phytoncides, and they're airborne substances that are a way that the trees can actually fight off disease. And they are what help our immune system too. So by having those plants in our space, we are not only cleaning the air, but also having certain smells from the outdoors will help kickstart our immune system. Cedar, pine oil, orange tree leaf, these are all different types of scents from trees that sort of take that airborne substance. And then incidental movement. So incidental movement, I'm going to pause for a moment. That was a hefty one, right? There was a lot of information in all of there. And you can go back. I'm going to send you the slides. But the third concept I want to share with you is all about incidental movement. And not all movement needs to be exercise. Incidental movement is physical activity required to engage in normal daily activities across our day. Instead of intentional movement, like sport or HIIT class or yoga or boxing. So we can think about incidental movement in 3 different formats. So you've got LISS, low impact, low intensity, steady state. So this is something you want to do frequently. Every opportunity you get to walk, you should. Move to be moved. One of my favorite teachings in our yoga practice, just to get out of your head and into your body, move to be moved. You can do the same with walking, this low intensity, steady state. You know, instead of parking right next to where you need to go into, park as far away as possible. Walk a little bit further. And then we have NEAT, non-exercise activity. This is your add-on energy expended for everything we do that's not sleeping. So it's the energy you expend to eat, to play sports, but it ranges, and it can range from anything from walking to work, to typing, to performing yard work, to, I don't know, getting in the car to drive, doing gardening, fidgeting, just any sort of extra movement. And that actually actively stimulates blood flow. Now, I'm standing. I now have a standing desk. And even just standing, this helps you maintain your energy levels and also burn 50 calories more per hour. So one of the other things, you'll love my picture over there, that add-on is like find a standing desk. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. And then we've got HIPA, high intensity incidental physical activity. And this is brief. And this is sometimes known as like movement snacks or nutritious movement. How can you sneak in some extra movement at any point throughout your day? So can you take the stairs, carry your child or your groceries instead of having them in a push cart? I don't know, while you're standing at your desk, do some lunges or some squats. Any sort of extra thing that you can just sneak on in there is good for your overall physical health, but it's not necessarily exercise. You're simply moving for movement's sake. Now we can bring all of this into our workspace to create more mindful work. And I'm going to give you a few tips to help you improve your sleep at first, because really a good day's work starts the day before. So the biggest tips, the most important thing is to prioritize your sleep. How you sleep determines how you feel the next day and how you perform. So Dr. Lindsay Browning, one of our guests, shares these 8 tips for improving your sleep. Take more exercise. Be aware of caffeine. So caffeine has a shelf life, I think it's called. Has a shelf life 8 hours. So if you're drinking a coffee at 4 in the afternoon or have some sort of caffeine at 4 in the afternoon, it's still in your system at 10 o'clock. It's still in your system at midnight. It's just getting out. So you want to be really wary of when you have caffeine. Don't eat too much too late. Maybe start having a bigger meal at lunch and a lighter meal in the dinner, or just eat earlier. I've started to eat a lot earlier with our boys, and we have family dinner around 6:30. And actually it gives your gut the time it needs to rest so that you don't go to bed on a full stomach. Kill screen time right before bed, at least an hour before bed. And if you can, leave your screen outside your room. I'm still working on it. Then do, because that blue light is just there and it just will mess with your circadian rhythm. Address anxiety levels. We tend to get in bed, and I know this from when I was going through my exhaustion funnel heading towards burnout. Like, I'd get in bed and the mind would start going and I'd start ruminating, and it just consumed me, that it impacted the quality of my sleep. And then drink hot milky drinks before bed. I know it's like sounds like the thing you do for your children, but it works for adults too. Avoid strong exercise in the evening. So if you're someone that does really like to exercise, I've said take more exercise, but make sure you do that exercise before bed, but not before bed. So do it midday, do it first thing in the morning, just not right before bed. If you are going to do some things before bed, make it gentle, make it relaxing. Do some yin yoga, do some more restorative poses, gentle stretches. And then optimize your bedroom, like invest in the right pillows, in the right mattress. Fix the temperature. Best temperature is around 17 to 19 degrees Celsius. And there's your tips. And when you focus on creating a good container for your sleep, this will have a huge impact on how you wake up and how you perform the next day. Your day starts the night before. Okay, now your ultimate desk setup. How can we make it mindful? How can we make it impactful so that you perform to your best? Standing desk. I have invested in a standing desk and it's great. It means that I am standing more than I'm sitting. So I'm combating sedentary lifestyle just by, even while I work. Now, it might not be practical for some of you. It might not be, you might not have the money for the investment right now, and that's fine. Start investigating. I actually started off with I don't have a true adjustable desk. I have one that I can, that's placed on top of my desk because I wasn't confident if it was actually going to work for me. I love it. It's great. I've got a mat underneath my desk. I actually think that keeps my feet supported, my back supported, because sometimes standing on the floor can be a little bit harsh. But standing desk, my number one suggestion. Okay, desk facing a window. I'm lucky. I have a window right in front of me. And so I get the sun coming in and I can look outside. I can look outside, see the sea, which is always nice, and give my eyes a break, but also get that sunlight on my face as I'm working, which is good for energy levels. Have windows open throughout your space. Green plants, get some green plants. Essential oils, you can include some scents in your space. Consider your lighting strategies. So can you put some different types of lighting and uplighters and downlighters so that you are more aligned with your circadian rhythm? Just have nice food on your desk. I mean, and a pitcher of water, because being prepared means that you won't go and, snack on things that you shouldn't be, that aren't necessarily great for your energy levels. So if you have those things right there, ready to go, then it takes the thought process away. And I say this in so many things that I introduce. You want to take the thought process away. You want to make it as easy for yourself as possible. So get prepped so that all of a sudden when you're hungry or you're thirsty, you're not rushing down and picking up something that isn't good for you. And it's the same with exercise. Make it easy. Get yourself all set up, the night before. If you want to exercise in the morning, have your clothes laid out, have your, know exactly what you're going to do. Make it easy. Keep it simple. And then snacks just got a whole lot healthier. Introduce some movement snacks. And this could just be like when you go out for lunch, go for a walk. Schedule walking meetings. Steve Jobs was a huge fan of walking meetings. And so if you have one-to-one meetings with direct reports or your manager, maybe you just suggest, let's do this on a walking meeting. Let's do a walking meeting. You actually have so much more creativity when you're outside and seeing things. Climb the stairs, don't take the elevator, don't take the lift. Be smart with your transport. So maybe get off one metro stop earlier and just walk that last little bit. Choose to move over email. Choose to move. Always choose to move. That's sort of the idea. Choose to move. Just go with that statement and think about how it impacts, how it can apply to every single thing you do. Choose to move. Go see someone at their desk instead of emailing them. And then get up, stand up, get up, stand up. I'm not going to start singing for you, but get up, stand up every 20 or 30 minutes. So if you don't have a standing desk, just get up, maybe move your body a little bit, and then sit back down again. And the same is for your eyes. So staring at a screen can be really exhausting for your eyes. So every 20 or 30 minutes, you just want to look up from your screen, look about 20 meters away for 20 seconds. And that's good for your eye health. Movement snacks. Now, Montessori, a lot of you might know the Montessori schools. And Maria Montessori says the development of the mind comes through movement. Move to be moved. Move to be moved. Move to create energy. Move to stimulate creativity. Move to get creative. And here's what you know. You know now that physical well-being is more than just exercise. You know that biophilic design can change how you think and feel in your workspace. It's all about bringing the outdoors in and how that can apply to impact your physical health. You know that movements of all sorts stimulate blood flow and they help you combat sedentary lifestyle. And sadly, sedentary lifestyle is taking over, and we all need to be much more proactive about how we combat it. You know that a productive day starts the night before, and you know that really small changes to your workspace and daily activity can make a huge difference to your mental wellness, not just your physical health. So you've got some things to consider. You've got the facts. You know the concepts now, and you have the recommendations. Choose one thing. Choose one change to make and start from there. And that's all you can do is move forward, keep moving forward. Now, if any of you have any questions, obviously get in touch with me. This is all about nourishing your body, and it was specific to creating a much more healthy workspace for you, but you can take a lot of this into your home life, into anything and anywhere you do work. Until next time, everyone, be here and be well.